Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. I am Courtney. So I already recorded this podcast two other times now. This is my third time. And I redid it because I felt I got a little too aggro, a little too crazy. So I'm going to try to dial it down just a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I'll probably still get fired up and I'll probably still get a little crazy. But I'm going to try my best to be a little less out of control, a little less unhinged than I was in the other two podcasts. So I have worked at many places, so I'm not going to mention names of people and I'm not going to mention names of businesses. I just say I've worked for a business and I don't mention names. So you can draw whatever conclusions you want. I am not saying any names and I'm not saying any business names. So that said, I thought this was kind of funny. Well, first of all, hello. Welcome so much. Thank you for tuning in. You have many options, and a lot of them are far better than my podcast. That is for sure. You have better options, you have better quality, and yet you still choose to tune in to my little old podcast. And you're not even under duress. At least I hope not. I hope no one's forcing you. I hope it's not some torturous thing and you're having to listen to this because you're being tortured. That would be horrible. But whatever reason you are listening, I hope it's because you want to. I appreciate it. And so in this podcast, again, to those of you who have not listened before, I talk into my phone. I do this because I pace around. I can't sit still. It drives me bananas. So you are going to hear things in the background. You are going to hear all kinds of things in the background, and sometimes they are annoying and frustrating, and other times they might be quite lovely and soothing, like water and crickets and coyotes and frogs. Sometimes it's going to be annoying. There's times you can hear me panting from gasping for air because I'm trying to hike up some friggin' mountain while I'm doing a podcast. So I appreciate those of you that, in spite of all of that weirdness, you still choose to tune in and listen. You rock. You have mental fortitude. That's what you have. So what has been keeping me up? Well, you guys, the prank caller strikes again. Dun, dun, dun. Prank caller strikes again. So this prank caller, I believe I've touched on this a bit. But clearly I have not given as much attention as this prank caller wants. I guess they need more attention. I guess I haven't talked about them enough. So to give you a background, ever since about, week and a half after I was let go from one of my jobs, I've never been let go before ever, by the way. And I was let go, which I will talk about later. But ever since then, I started receiving prank phone calls. For a while, they would be anywhere from 1 to 10 a day. And then it tapered off to 1 to 6 every day. But it was once a week. It'd be once a week they would call in one day, every week for anywhere from 5 to 8 times. And now they just call periodically. Well, so they called the other day and they accidentally called from their home phone number, from their cell phone number. They forgot to star 67. They forgot to make it where I could not see, they forgot to block their phone number. So instead of blocking their phone number, they called from it. And obviously, I knew it was them right away. I just had a feeling. And then they realized what they did, and they hung up after it rang 1.5 times. Well, by that point, I already had their phone number. Well, the dummies thought that it would be intelligent, because they're young, although there are stupid people that are old too. So, but these guys are young, and they thought that it would be a genius move after they called from their home phone number to wait about 30 seconds and call back. Not even 30 seconds. It was like 15 seconds. They decided to call back. And this time they decided to do star 67. And I was like, too late, you big dummy. I already have your phone number. And so that was dumb. And they, when I tried calling them back, they had me blocked. And then I called back again after they called me, because of course I answered. And I said, oh, did you forget to block your number? You're calling me back because, and you did star 69 and it shows up no caller ID, but why did you do that? I already have your number. And they were like, what are you talking about? We don't know who you are. We've never met you before. And I was like, clearly you know me. You do know me because you know a lot about me. You know things about me that only coworkers would know. So you do know me. You do know a lot about me. And I know who you are. I have your phone number. So don't try to deny it. And then you called back like 2 seconds after you called me for some bizarro reason. So I ended up, they were trying to be like, no, I don't know who you are. And I was like, okay. Anyway, they ended up calling me back, and they called me back last night. And they called me back last night to say, oh, you narcissist. Oh, you narcissist. Well, again, I had just got done doing a podcast about narcissists. I was talking about narcissists, and I just happened to be talking about the narcissists that I used to work with, my coworkers, how her and her daughter were incredibly huge narcissists. And then coincidentally, I just all of a sudden get a prank phone call in which they immediately start calling me a narcissist. And I was like, oh, you listened to my podcast. I'm so glad you're a fan. I'm so glad that you are a fan of my podcast. And I'm so glad that you're a fan of me. You're quite obsessed with me. I'm not certain why. I don't know if you learned that I am incredibly happy and successful. I don't know if word got around that I'm successful and that I'm doing very well. I don't know if word got around that I'm doing far better now than I was with them. I don't know if customers have been complaining to them. I don't know if customers have been asking them where I am. I don't know if they're feeling insecure for whatever reason. I'm not sure if they're missing me. I'm not sure if they're realizing it was a really bad mistake to let me go. I don't know if they're bored. I don't know if they're lonely. I don't know why I'm getting these prank phone calls from them. But the only thing that you can get out of prank phone callers are that, especially ones that do it over and over. I'm talking about ones that do it over and over and over, like these people. The only conclusion you can draw when someone calls you over and over and is listening to your podcast and just stalking you is that they're stalkers, they're obsessed, or they're bored, or they've heard about your success. They heard that you're successful. They heard that you're doing well and they don't like it, or they're jealous of your success. Maybe they were thinking that I wouldn't do well, and because they keep going, you're unemployed. You're unemployed. And I'm like, really? Yeah, exactly, right? I'm like, really? It doesn't sound like I'm unemployed, because did you hear that? That doesn't sound like unemployment. My job is to take care of dogs. And I do mobile grooming, and I do mobile pet nanny. Now, you just heard a dog in the background. Of course, I have dogs, so you don't have to believe me, but those aren't my dogs in the background. And so I don't know if they're just stressing out real bad, and that's why they're calling me so much. I don't know, like I said, if they're bored. I don't know if they're lonely. I don't know if they're super insecure. I don't know if they miss me. I don't know if customers have been asking where I am, or I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is they've been calling me obsessively. And I know who they are. Now, again, a little background on these people. They are very, very, so the owners of the place were complete idiots, are idiots. And they are 20 years apart, which I don't care. I don't care if you're 20 years apart. Be a cougar, be a whatever. I don't care. Age is, as long as it's legal. Age, fine. 20 years apart, fine. I was 11 years apart from my partner, so fine. But they're 20 years apart, and I only bring that up because the wife was close to age or the same age as my coworker, so they became friends. And my ex-boss is just a absolute shit show. They're both shit shows, but she's a shit show because she's weak and insecure and very like, that's her. She's like an orca whale would have killed her in a second if she were in the wild, or if things were still like they were back in the day, she would have been unalived immediately. She would not have made it. And then he is just a stinky, really out of shape, has all kinds of health problems, and pays people to do work because he's too lazy to do it on his own. And he's like, I want to retire. Well, why'd you buy a business? So you bought a business that's a 24/7, 365-day-a-year thing, and you want to retire? Well, so I didn't trust them. They bought the place. I didn't trust them. They said, hey, we want to make you the manager. And I was like, well, I was getting ready to leave. I wasn't going to stay, but I love our customers. I love our dogs, and I don't trust them around you. So I definitely need to stay because I don't trust you guys. So I stayed because I wanted to make sure that the customers and the dogs had the care that they deserve. And I didn't trust them. Well, the previous owner had hired this gal who has been called a narcissist her entire life by everybody, including her family, including her kids, including her ex, including places that she worked. I mean, one of the places she worked, they had a meeting to discuss if they were going to fire her or not. And because she's just a nightmare to work for. She is never happy. She always complains, and she's territorial. She tries to encroach on other people's territory. She tries to take over, and she doesn't do a good job at it. And she's not really all that capable. She got hired. Keep in mind, she got hired to be a groomer. She chose to take the job. She knew how much it charged, she knew how much she was going to get paid. She knew what her salary was. She went into it knowing what her pay rate was, knowing what her job description was, knowing what her hours were. She knew she was going to have split days off, but she still chose to do it. And then she immediately started complaining, and taking so much time off. My God, that woman took a lot of time off while complaining that she was poor. I'm poor, I'm broke. I need money. But then whenever we asked her to work overtime, she couldn't because of her health. And she would always bring up this disease that she had and how that's why she couldn't work. And she could barely work 40 hours. It was very difficult for her to work 40 hours. She constantly complained that she didn't get overtime and that myself and my partner and my son were taking all the overtime. We didn't want the overtime. We wanted desperately to have days off because we got paid salary. I got paid salary. And this person decided that she was going to complain because she wanted overtime. Yet when we had a gigantic ice storm, we had this huge ice storm, and we told the new owners, don't leave. You cannot leave. There's an ice storm coming and you're not going to be able to get back. And we can't stay here. So you're not going to be able to get back if you leave. And they're like, it'll be fine. And we're like, no, it's not going to be fine. You're not going to be able to get back. Don't leave. This is your business. Not our business. This is your business. And we have pipes that can freeze. And we have power that can go out. And we have a lot of things. You need to be here. And they're like, nope, we're going. So they left. That's the kind of business people there. They left their business and said, here you go. Well, my partner and son and I had to stay the night in their home that had a blow-up air mattress, a folding lawn chair, no TV whatsoever, and barely working internet. And that's what we had to stay on. And it was freezing cold. Well, we lived at the top of a hill that was very, very steep, very windy, and tree-lined. And I mentioned the tree-line because the hill is incredibly icy and sun doesn't really get to it because the trees keep it shaded. And I ended up getting stuck at the top of my hill, and some trees had come down. So my partner had to stay at work by himself, and at the time he didn't have a car because I had it. We only had one car at the time, and I was unable to bring him food, and he couldn't go anywhere. And unfortunately, we didn't have money at the time for DoorDash. Well, my coworker who did not live far away, she only lived 20 minutes away, and the main roads, which she would travel, the main roads that she would be on were clear because they had been out clearing it. Now, keep in mind, she wanted overtime. And so we would beg her to stay the night because I didn't want to stay the night there. He didn't want to stay the night there. Try to stay in a place with a blow-up mattress, barely any internet, no TV whatsoever that's freezing cold, and you can't even go get food. And I couldn't bring food to him. So he's sitting there trying to keep animals warm, not have the pipes freeze. He had to get up every 2 hours, knock ice off the pipes, wrap the pipes. At the time, we didn't have a pump house. At the time, we didn't have the pipes wrapped. And we told the owners that. The owners knew this, didn't try to take care of it ahead of time. And again, we'd made it very clear to them, hey, if you leave and you go back, you're not going to be able to make it back here to take care of your business that you bought and you're the owners of. And they were like, you'll do it. And so we did, because someone has to be there to make sure that the animals are alive. And they didn't care. And then the girl that was complaining all the time, my coworker, about wanting overtime, who had roads that she could travel on because they were all de-iced and they made them fine, refused to come and stay the night ever. But yet would complain incessantly about how she never got overtime and needed the money. But then also would say that she couldn't work a 40-hour shift and how a 40-hour shift was super hard for her because she has Graves' disease. So it's really hard and I just can't. Well, meanwhile, I was going through massive trauma at the time. I had a lot going on and I absolutely could not be there at the kennel and deal with all of my problems and be working like 50 hours a week. And then they were like, finally, they decided after a year and like 3 months of owning the place, they finally decided to saunter in and move in after a year and 3 months. They finally decided to move in. Well, they moved in and still completely incompetent and hire everybody else to do everything for them. They didn't bother and still haven't bothered to learn about the business. They haven't bothered and still haven't bothered to learn the customers' names. Half the dogs don't like them. They ended up calling me all the time, every time there's a problem, stressing out, not knowing what to do, crying because they didn't know what to do. And they're the owners, and that is frustrating. They didn't call, and then they had the audacity one day to send me a text message after they had fired me to tell me, yeah, one of your customers had your phone number and tried calling you and couldn't get a hold of you. They tried calling you several times and couldn't get a hold of you because they wanted you to come and watch their dog. And they wanted you to come help them, but they wanted you to come watch their dog. And keep in mind, that dog goes to them for boarding and goes to them for grooming. That dog is a customer of theirs, but it was a customer of theirs that was when I worked there. So after I left, they wanted me, not them. They tried to call me. Well, I never saw the number. I never saw anybody try to call me, but they claimed that they did. And then they were like, after they tried calling you several times and they tried calling other people, they got a hold of us. They got a hold of us and we went and took care of it. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. The people that they board with and that they groom their dog with, they didn't try to call. They tried to call me and several other people. And then when they couldn't get a hold of me, who no longer works there, and several other people, they finally decided to call you. That doesn't sound good. That's not a compliment. Why are you bragging about that? But these same people, again, were like, I have an idea. I was working like 50 hours a week and only getting paid for 40. And they kept saying it was my fault. My fault that I was staying late. But I was staying late because the groomer, like I said, would complain incessantly about having hard dogs. These dogs are hard. And complain about how many dogs she had and how much help she needed. And she would constantly going around making everybody help. And anytime we were trying to do our job, anytime we were trying to get our job done, she would take us away from our job to help her. So then we got behind on our job. So I ended up staying late because I constantly had to bathe her dogs, dry her dogs, and groom half of her dogs. And then my son had to do the same thing. Not groom them, but he had to bathe them, and he had to dry them, and he had to hold them. So he couldn't do his job. And she would constantly complain about how hard dogs were and how she couldn't get that many dogs done. But then she would tell the owner, oh, she hates it when people help. She never asks for people to help. She hates it. She gets angry when people help her. She doesn't want anybody to help her. She doesn't understand why people help her. She can do at least 5 dogs by herself with no help. Interesting, because yes, she did. Anytime we were all trying not to help her, anytime we didn't want to help her because we had our own jobs to do, she would go out and try to find us, and then she would complain about how hard a dog was. And she would complain about how this woman, after she got hired, would take off so many days. After complaining about how she needed money, would never work overtime, say she was too sick to work overtime, could barely work 40 hours, but complained about not getting overtime. This same woman would say that she wanted a raise, would constantly take time off, took so much time off, but said she was broke. This same woman would say that every other groomer gets paid so much more money. First of all, groomers don't get paid so much more money than she got paid unless they're in huge cities. If they're in big cities, they get paid more than she gets paid. But the other reason she didn't get paid the money she was asking for is she couldn't even handle more than 3 to 4 dogs a day. She would only do 3 to 4 dogs a day. That barely, if at all, covers her wages. It doesn't even cover her wages. It barely covers her wages. And she could only get 3 to 4 dogs done a day, and that is with my help. That is with me doing half of the job, literally half the job. I bathed, I dried, and I groomed half of the dogs. So all she did is groom half of the dogs. She didn't bathe any. She didn't dry any. She groomed half the dogs and got paid, ended up getting paid the same amount as me, who has been there 6 years longer. She only worked 38 to 40 hours a week, did not do any job other than half of the grooms, took more vacation than anybody, never, ever helped out in any fucking way, and constantly complained because she didn't like her schedule. If I just had more money and my schedule changed, I'd be happy. If I just had more money and my schedule changed, I'd be happy. So she got her schedule changed. She got more money. Still wasn't happy. Still not happy. So she got her schedule changed again. The girl had been there for 2.5 years and she had like 3 different schedules. Again, keep in mind, she took the job knowing it was split shift, took the job knowing what she was required to do and knowing what the pay was, and then did nothing but complain and nothing but say that she needed overtime, yet refused to ever work it. And the same woman had a daughter that loved to stir the pot. Her favorite thing in the whole wide world is to be a fucking shit stirrer. Just a little drama queen. And she just loved to cause trouble. And her brothers would cause trouble all over town. Police were involved many times. And yet she loved to complain about my son and how my son did this and my son did that. Half the time my son would be cleaning and doing his job. And if he, God forbid, stopped, excuse me, that was a gross burp, I apologize. If my son, God forbid, went out to the shed and took a break because he was sick and tired of my coworker trying to find him to do her job, he was like, fuck you, you can't find me. I'm going to hide from you because you're constantly trying to find me so that I can do all the work while you complain how tired you are and how no one's working. She did the least amount of work and complained how she did the most. It's just weird. So now her daughter is prank calling me. And same with the kid that used to work there. Because again, I don't know if they've heard of my success and they're very upset that I'm doing well. They're upset that I'm happy. They're upset that I'm successful. They're upset that I'm no longer there. I don't know if they're realizing how useless their employees are, that they made really bad choices. I don't know, but I keep getting prank calls, and it's crazy because, again, hey, prank caller, do you need a hug? Do you need a hug? Do you need someone to talk to? Do you need to just vent? Do you need to, what's going on with you? Why do you feel the need to call me and talk to me? Why do you feel the need to call me and try to say things that aren't true? You sit here and call me and go, unemployed. Well, that's just not true. Where are you hearing that from? My God, you think I would be unemployed? You think that I would, for a second, be not have a job? I don't know. It's just strange to me when people make assumptions, because again, that's what they used to do. So the owners thought, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take this girl who's brand new, hasn't been here very long, that customers constantly complain about. They used to complain to me about her grooms. Her grooms are awful because she has to hurry. She's in a hurry so much that her grooms look like crap. And they look like crap because she is in a hurry. So I would have to talk to the customers. And I don't think that the owners and her liked it, that the customers would say that they liked me. The customers would say, if it wasn't for Courtney, we wouldn't be here. Because they trust me. They know me. We developed a bond. I truly, genuinely care about my customers and their animals, their pets, very much. And we developed a bond outside of work. And I don't think the owners and my coworkers liked that. I think it bothered them because they didn't get that bond. They don't have that bond because they think somehow they can develop that bond in 2 seconds. So anyways, they were like, here's the problem. Here's how we're going to solve the problem of my coworker only working hardly at all and constantly complaining and never happy. We're going to reward her. We're going to reward her by allowing her to go home 2 hours early on our very busiest day. So we had a day on Thursdays and Saturdays were our very busiest day, super busy. And they decided that I was going to work 50 hours a week and only get paid 40. I was going to be on salary. And they insisted that the only reason that I worked overtime is because I chose to do it, because I brought it upon myself. And that's not true. It was because they chose to keep people working for them that I told them over and over again didn't do their job, and they didn't believe me. They chose not to believe me. They chose to believe her. They chose to listen to her. They chose to take her side. And so because they made those choices, they decided to tell me that, the only reason I'm working overtime is because I am not time managing well. It's my time management. Not the fact that my coworker had way too many dogs that she could not do on her own, and I was spending all of my time doing her job. And the fact that I told them that several times and they refused to talk to her. I tried talking to her, but you can't talk to her. She screams and yells. She screamed and yelled at me like a psycho schizophrenic person on our very first staff meeting. Her very first staff meeting working there. And she flipped out in front of everybody. Everybody was staring at her like, wow, that was so out of line, so schizophrenic, and so unhinged. And she did it in front of all of the coworkers when she had only been there for 2 weeks. And then she did it again to me in front of my coworkers, where she ended up screaming and yelling at me and telling me if I fucking came near her, she was going to fucking... I can't remember if she said she was going to fucking kill me, fucking punch me, something like that. And I was like, whatever, because this girl, I could take her in 2 seconds. And I hope you're listening, and I hope you knock on my door one day, because I will take you on and I will win. But she just thought she was all that in a bag of chips. But then they were like, yeah, you're right, Courtney. The reason that things aren't getting done is because you don't time manage well and you aren't managing your time. So therefore, not that she didn't do her job, not that she constantly had everybody else, like my son and everybody else working there helping her all day to where we had to scramble to try to get our jobs done at the end of the day. No. So they decided to reward her poor behavior that's constantly complaining and never happy and always changing her schedule and always taking time off and never working overtime and constantly complaining that she doesn't make enough money. They decided to reward that behavior by saying, we're going to allow her to go home 2 hours early on the very busiest day we have. One of the very busiest days. We had Thursdays and Saturdays, 2 of our busiest days. And Thursdays, we're going to let her go home 2 hours early, but we're going to pay her for 40 hours still. So she's going to work 30 hours a week and get paid 40. Meanwhile, I was working 50 hours a week and getting paid 40. And they were just telling me, well, you just need to time manage well. They were like, well, here's what we'll do. We'll let you come in 3 hours later on Thursday, the busiest day, because that makes sense. And we're going to let someone else go home 2 hours early. So we have 5 hours now that we have to somehow figure out how to get things done when we couldn't even do it in the 10 hours that we were open. So we're going to do like basically the exact same amount of stuff in half the time on our busiest day. And I'm going to work my ass off even harder. They're like, well, you're going to come in 3 hours late. Who the fuck do you think in those 3 hours? Who's going to be doing my job in those 3 hours? You're just tacking on 3 hours to the end of my day. Because my coworkers didn't do their job as it was. So they certainly aren't going to do my job and theirs while I'm gone. In the 3 hours that I'm gone, they aren't going to be doing my job because, again, they can't even get their job done. So you want me to come in 3 hours late. You want her to go home 2 hours early. So I'm going to be working 47 hours and getting paid for 40. She's working 38 hours getting paid for 40. And again, she doesn't get done with the grooms ever on time. So now you're expecting her to still get the grooms done, but get them done 2 hours earlier. She can't do them in the 10 hours that she has. She's only capable of doing 3 to 5 dogs in the 10 hours that she has. And you're sitting here saying you want her to now do those 3 to 5 dogs in like 8 hours? And this benefits me? That was their solution. That's how clueless they are. And all they had to do is fire 2 people, let 2 people go, and then the 2 of them are staff now. Now they become staff. The owners become staff. The owners help run the business. They could save a lot of money. And they always hire people to do things that they need to learn how to do. The previous owners knew how to do everything. If something broke down, if there was an ice storm, if there was a fire, which there has been both ice storms and fires. And you know what? The previous owners knew exactly what to do. They had a plan. They knew what to do. You could trust them. They were capable. They were trustworthy. They were competent. The new owners are none of those things. Definitely not competent and certainly not capable. Oh my God. They have everybody else. They're like, we'll hire someone. Well, that's great, except when people can't get to you. When people can't get to you because of snow, ice, fire, or whatever, that doesn't work. And sometimes they can get to you, but you can't, not until way later. So what are you going to do in the meantime? They refuse. I know, exactly. They refuse to learn how to do their job. So I knew how to do it. My son knew how to do it. My partner knew how to do it, but nobody there bothered to try. The manager they have there doesn't know how to do it. There's probably so many things that they're forgetting about. There are so many important things that I bet you they will not do. And then they're like, well, we'll just hire our handyman that comes up that lives 4.5 hours away from us. So, yeah, they just sit there and they hire other people to do shit because they refuse to learn how to do it. And then they complain about money. Or they're like, oh, we have money. Well, eventually that money is going to run out. And they could have more money. They would have a lot more money if they would get rid of 2 staff and just have them work. But they don't want to work. Again, they're lazy people. And she's 36 and wants to retire. And he's 57 and wants to retire. And hey, don't we all want to retire? And if you want to retire, awesome. Retire at whatever age you can and you're capable of, but you don't buy a business that's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and say you want to retire and hire everybody else to take care of it and literally not learn how to do any of the business. Because then if something happens, you're incapable, and that's what would happen. They'd call me. Because again, one of the owners is like, that's how she is. She's so insanely like fragile. She's a very, very, very fragile dewdrop. And then her partner is just, he thinks he's really cool and he tries very hard to be like, he's very for Sharia law. He's very into dominance. That's why I think, in my opinion, why he married someone 20 years younger. Because women are to be seen and not heard, and he likes to be dominant. And that's why he didn't like me. I wouldn't allow him to be dominant. And so he didn't like that, and he was like, dang. But he doesn't care that my coworker used to yell at him like crazy. That didn't bother him. And he would do this thing where he'd be like, whoa, 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 I'm not mad, don't get mad. And I'm like, I'm not mad at all. I'm not even acting like I'm mad. I'm not yelling, I'm not screaming. Why are you going, whoa, 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 I'm not mad. I'm like, either am I. So why are you saying that? Oh, no. And I'm like, okay, calm down. I'm like, calm down. I'm not even mad. If I'm mad, I'll tell you I'm mad. I'm not mad. I'm not doing anything. So it's funny because this prank caller keeps calling in again. I don't know if they are just really hurting for business. I don't know if people have been complaining. I don't know if people have been asking about me. I don't know if they're realizing that things are falling apart. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they need a hug. I don't know if they need to vent. I don't know if they miss me. I don't know if they're bored, insecure, lonely. I don't know what reasons, but it's a prank caller that calls constantly, not just once or twice. They've called many, 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 many times. And then, like I said, they accidentally called from their number. So I know who they are. And it's just, it's so weird. It's so weird. Why can't you move on? I'm not bothering you. I'm not coming to you. I'm not wondering how you're doing. I'm not questioning how you're doing. I know how you guys are doing because I have people that call me. Remember, you keep forgetting that I worked there for 8 years and I have tons and tons and tons of phone numbers from customers because I was friends with them, because I got to know them, because I care about them, and they know that I'm genuine. So we became close. So people tell me things. I know what's going on. You guys don't understand that because you don't have that relationship. You don't even know half of your customers' names. So it's frustrating when you have someone that just will not leave you alone. And I'm like, and then they get a restraining order against me. I have a restraining order when they're the ones that keep on poking the bear. Poking and poking and poking and poking. And then they get a reaction. They're like, oh, what? And I called them a narcissist on one of my podcasts. And again, they called me back and they're like, narcissist? I'm like, oh, you heard my podcast. I'm glad you're a fan. They're such fans. Thank you for being a fan, pranker. Thank you for being such a fan. But again, if you want to call and you just need a hug or you want to talk, we can do that. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Are you miserable at your job? Do you want to quit your job? Have people been complaining? It's okay. You can talk to me. Anyway, that's what's been on my mind a bit. I'm a little agitated with people that keep calling. But hey, again, if you need a hug, you can call me. It's fine. If you like me that much, I get it. I get it. I'm pretty charming sometimes. So, you know who's pretty charming? You know who's pretty irresistible and great? Irresistible. I said that weird. You know who's irresistible and pretty freaking great? You. Yeah, you. Don't look around. Don't look around. I'm talking to you. You, Tim. You, Tom. You, Chad. You, Brad. You, Sally and Sue. And you, Brenda. I don't know. There's got to be Brendas and Sallys and Sues and Tims and Toms, right? I'm talking to you guys. I'm talking to every country. I'm talking to every city. I'm talking to every little podunk town that's been listening to me. I'm from a podunk town. I love podunk towns. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you more than I can even say. I'm trying to think of clever ways to say to tell you how grateful I am, and I'm running out of clever ways. So I'll just say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. And I hope you continue to listen. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, control the things you can and let go of the rest. Until next time.